Welcome back to Vanterpool Family Stories, where we share our stories with you. As most of you know, we live in sunny Southern California, where we spend most of our times on sandy beaches or really anywhere outdoors with our homeschool child.
And although that might seem like the all-American dream, to some people, we were yearning for change. Change of scenery, a change of energy, hunting for an environment that was mentally stimulating, and honestly, we desired a break from the hamster wheel of working to pay bills, when we could use those funds elsewhere, like traveling and putting it towards projects that could help build a brighter future for others. So in short, we packed up and went to Southeast Asia.
In long form, we had to pack our house up, and we had a lot of stuff, so we put the important stuff in storage.
Then we wrapped our neighbors' cars as a parting gift and sold the Jeep.
We sold a bunch of things and got some extra cash.
We gave away a lot of stuff too, and it felt good.
We hugged our friends really tight because we honestly didn't know when we were coming back.
Just like that, it was time to go. Or at least that's what we thought. Just when we thought we had done everything necessary to leave, we got turned around at the airport. So before we squeezed the juice on all of our amazing Asian travel adventures, we decided to share some Know Before You Go travel tips that we gathered from our experiences. Hey guys, Roxy here. I created a list of 8 items I think you should know before you go. First things first, create a budget. I think creating a budget is important because it will allow you to decide what you will and will not be able to do on this trip. These are things you should include in your budget. Your flight, your stay, the average cost of hotels. Do you need a car to get around? Are there taxis? What are their methods of transportation? And that way you can know what you can and cannot do this trip. The second thing I would suggest is to buy your flight early. Okay, buy the flight early. The earlier you buy the flight, the cheaper it will be. And on a lot of airlines nowadays, you don't have to pay everything up front. You can pay half now, half later. So buy your flight early because it's much cheaper. Like a flight can literally go from being $600 round trip to like $600 each way. So number 3 is an important one. Know your entry requirements. Some countries are still going through pandemic issues. So you may need a COVID shot to enter. You may need different kinds of booster shots. You may only need a negative test result. Some countries you don't need anything, but it is very important to know your entry requirements. And this also comes into play when buying your tickets because I tried to do a cheaper route and the flights to Japan were really cheap, like $120 to $250 cheap. And that's like unheard of. So my idea was to buy the ticket to Japan, have a layover in Japan, and then fly directly to, where were we going? Vietnam. It didn't work that way. We got to the airport and realized that Japan needed a specific type of visa to enter their country, and they weren't even giving out those visas at the time. So that it's really important to know your entry requirements. So that pretty much, I won't say ruined our trip, but it definitely set us behind. We had to sit in America and figure out other ways to buy tickets, and we ended up spending like triple just to leave because we didn't know our entry requirements. And that also comes into play when you're buying a ticket. Because of the different entry requirements, you may buy a ticket to one place and think that your layover is just like an hour so you can just stay there. But some airports you have to leave your terminal, go outside the airport and go to a different place. And you may need, a COVID vaccine. You may need a specific visa just to leave the airport and go to a different part of the airport. You never know. So know your entry requirements. And also when you're buying your tickets, try to book your ticket with one airline. Don't try to, do like I did and buy a ticket to Japan and then try to book another ticket from Japan to your final destination. Book everything all in once. Let the layovers and your final destination be all in one thing. So know your entry requirements and avoid hassle, hiccups, and anything that can go wrong at the airport. And a lot of things will go wrong at the airport, but don't let that be one of them. Number 4, as you're planning, start a Google map. If you haven't tried Google Maps, I strongly suggest you learn. I'll do a whole how-to video in another video. If you get a Google map, you can start researching places and just adding them to the map. That way, when you find the different hotels you like, you can also put those on the map. That way you can see what hotels are close to which activity, or which activities you simply won't be able to do because they're so far away. Like, I had so many activities planned, and then once I started to see where they were on the map, and some things were like 2.5 hours away from where I was staying, they're in a completely different side of the country, so you may not want to stay in that area. So I strongly suggest starting a Google map, and like I said, I'll make another video to teach you how to use Google Maps and have a visual layout of what a Google map looks like and how to prepare your own. Number 5, another thing that's really important to know as you go, make sure all of your important documents are up to date. By that I mean, before you leave the country, make sure your passport has enough visa pages before you go somewhere. If you have bills, set them up on automatic bill pay. If you have cards, make sure they are not about to be expired. We got to one country and got stuck in the country for an additional week because Bino didn't have any more passport pages. So we had to find the U.S. consulate and the embassy so he could get a rush passport. And even so, that temporary passport did not allow us to go to certain countries. So we were not allowed to visit Indonesia or Bali because they did not allow the temporary U.S. passport. Another thing is make sure your cards are not about to expire. Me and all of my grown adult years, I've never been responsible enough to keep up with a card up until the expiration date. And 2 of my cards expired while we were in Asia, and there was no way for me to get a new card. So I was struggling towards the end of our trip because I had money in accounts, but I couldn't use it. So I was going places, swiping my card, not understanding why they weren't working, and never in a million years did I think it was because my card was about to expire or my card expired. So make sure all your documents are up to date. If you have negative test results or you've got your shot records, make sure you have those on hand because, 8 times out of 10 when you get to different locations, if it does require a negative test or for you to be vaccinated, they want to see those items either before you board the plane or before you can even leave the airport once you land in the country. So have those documents printed out, accessible on your phone, just really easily accessed. So make sure you have your documents in order before you leave. Make sure your passport is up to date, not about to expire, has enough visa pages. Make sure your credit cards and debit cards are not about to expire, and make sure you have your documentation as far as vaccinations and negative test results. Number 6, this one will save you a lot of money. If the country you are entering requires a visa and you can apply early, it will be 100% cheaper than if you go on hand and try to buy it. Okay, so some flights, they won't let you get on the plane until you've applied for your visa. We were going to South Korea, they wouldn't even allow us to board the flight unless we had our visa. And if you can get the visa sometimes a week in advance, 3 days in advance, and it could be maybe $10, $15, maybe $20. Because we did a rush visa and needed it within an hour, we had to pay $150 per person. Get your visas early if you can get them early. Just Google visa for the specific country that you're going to. And number 7 to know as you go, be familiar with your airline policies. Know the baggage policies. Know their lap child policies. Know if they have discounts. Just if a child is maybe under 13. What I thought was really cool going into Asia and traveling through Asia is that they don't do a bag count. They weigh your bags. Each passenger is allotted a certain amount of weight per bag. So instead of here in America, we pay $50 per bag. There you get maybe 50 kilograms, allotted to you. And then you can only have maybe 15 more kilos after that. I don't want to give you exact numbers because I'm not sure of the exact numbers. Leaving Asia, coming back to America, we had so many bags. We had bought so many gifts for people. We had accumulated so much stuff from buying shoes and clothes for ourselves and souvenirs for our family members. But when we got to the airport, we had way more than they allowed us to carry. And our tickets may have only been $120 to get from one country to another, but the bags rang us about $1,000, $1,500. And then even after that, we were not allowed. We got to a certain point where we had reached the weight limit and literally had to leave a whole checked bag behind. because we were not familiar with the airline policy. Not only the baggage policies, but be familiar with their children policies. A lot of people are not aware that when you fly out of the country, there's no such thing as a free child. Like, even if your child is 2 and under, they're not free, but it will probably be like 10% of your ticket. So if you paid $300 for your ticket, it may be like $30 for your child. So be aware of that when you're booking your ticket. Don't just get to the counter and say, hey, I've got my tickets. Oh yeah, can you add my baby? No, there's a price for that. You have to pay for that. You know, there are meal options. You want to, if you're a vegetarian or vegan like my family, you want to let them know ahead of time. So when they're passing out meals for these long 15-hour flights, you have something to eat as well, because the meals are going to come throughout the flight and they're complimentary, but it sucks that everyone's getting these great smelling meals and you can't eat any of it because you did not let them know if they're your dietary restrictions. So be aware of the policies on the airline. And last but not least, get traveler's insurance, because anything can happen. You know, you could get sick the day before the flight and you may need a refund, or you want to credit it and get all of your money back. You could get sick while you're in another country, and it's really expensive for foreigners to go to the doctor. And it could be like $10, you know, for people that live in that country to go to the doctor. But if you have your traveler's insurance, it really doesn't matter what it costs, because you're insured, you can go to the doctor, and, you know, you don't want to be riding a dirt bike and break your arm and now you're sitting there hurt and, you know, taking a 16-hour flight home, and you're in pain because you couldn't afford to go to the doctor. If you get sick in that country and you have to quarantine, your insurance will help cover that. So get your traveler's insurance. Those are my 8 know before you goes. I hope this was helpful to somebody, and be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know what more you want to see. I will try to be more consistent with these videos and releasing all of our footage. I'm seeing all the comments, I'm getting all the messages. Thank you guys for all of the love. I'm going to keep sharing here on Vanterpool Family Stories. If you want to find us on Instagram, we are Vanterpool_family_stories. I look forward to sharing more with you. Thanks for watching.